So, namaste, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all of you to the Blub World Web Talks 269th episode. In the last 268 episodes, we have talked to, interacted with more than 5,000 school leaders on this very platform where they've shared their ideas, opinions, innovation, and what all new are they doing in the education space. तो नमस्कार, आप सभी का स्वागत है ब्लब वर्ल्ड वेब टॉक्स के 269वें एपिसोड में। पिछले 268 एपिसोड्स में हमने करीबन करीबन 5,000 से ज्यादा शिक्षाविदों से बातचीत की और उनसे ये जानने की कोशिश की कि वो शिक्षा को कैसे बदल रहे हैं और शिक्षा उन्हें कैसे बदल रही है. So today as well, when we start off this session, we'll be talking about something superbly interesting, superbly exciting for a student and problematic for an education evaluator. So we'll try to know from school leaders, we'll try to know from university representatives and also from teenagers on what is their perspective on examinations, and can we really have a school where there are no exams? What do our speakers feel about it? What do the teenagers feel about it? This is what we'll try to know during this complete session. But before we start off this session, just some ground rules. Think of this Blub World Web Talks like a speaking sprint. It's kind of a 100-meter race. It's not a speaking marathon. So the speaking time is limited. And once your speaking time is over, you might get muted. If you get muted, please don't get offended. It's just to keep the activity crisp and entertaining for everyone. When the final 30 seconds of your speaking time are left, Archita will raise her hand up in the air. That simply means you now need to conclude. If you miss out on her hand, I'll try to raise my hand up in the air. That does not mean I want to ask a question. That means you have the final 30 seconds to conclude. Make sure that you use the prompt well and enjoy this session. If you miss out onto anything, don't worry. There's an open floor at the end when we'll again give you time to, add more to the conversation. So it's time now to start off the 269th episode where we talk of what would education look like if schools functioned without examinations. Just to give you some context, UNESCO did a small little survey in 2024 when they found out that nearly 72% of secondary students worldwide face extreme anxiety during examinations, which is an extreme figure. When I say extreme anxiety, that means their regular daily life gets disrupted. Are we really, relying so much on an examination that we want to disrupt the lives of teens at such an early age? So, what's your opinion on this? How does it typically pan out? What do the speakers think? Is what we'll try to know. To start off this conversation, let me invite the first speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Miss Sreeja Iyer, the CEO and founder of Sparkling Mindz Global School from Bengaluru, Karnataka, India. Sreeja, ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Daksh, and thanks to all the children for creating this platform and asking this very, very important question. I think I will take off from what Daksh was mentioning about the examination stress that children experience. I will add another statistic to it. So worldwide, the rate at which adolescents are committing suicide today is 9 out of 1 lakh children. And in India, that rate is 15 out of 1 lakh children. And the disproportionate increase in that number compared to worldwide average is contributed through exam stress. And the level of judgment that children feel about their whole being for the marks that they get in the exam actually contributes a large portion of that stress. Now, if you ask me from a school environment perspective, right, are exams important? I will say no. Evaluations are important, right? You really need to ensure that what you're learning is evaluated regularly and built mastery upon. But when it comes to examinations, which is basically high stakes, single point of judgment of who you are and what you're capable of doing the next layer, that is actually very harsh. In the real world, every single one of us gets multiple opportunities to fail, relearn, improve ourselves on any aspect of the work that we actually want to do if we wish to do it. So instead of evaluating children and judging them on one parameter, I think schools should be focusing on building a sense of purpose, a sense of direction in which the child wants to contribute to in their lives. And as a part of that process in the school, we work on something called change maker missions, and our children actually work on creating self as well as school and community impact. And if we were to really replace exams with something meaningful and something tangible for children, what if it was replaced with community impact? And they received community references, and they received process portfolios, right? Like, how did I do this work? It may not be that you will create change overnight, right? But every chipping away at something matters. And if children take away that as an essence for themselves, they will want to evaluate the impact. They will want to know if they did enough. And that would be a big shift that I would want to created the education system, but without replacing it with a sense of purpose. If we just take away exams, it is like saying, let's take away fear from this world. Fear exists. It's a very natural emotion. What will happen is it'll get replaced with some other kind of fear, right? So you will have to create something which stands at the polar opposite and holds space in a centered way for the child's whole being growth. So that replacement is very essential, and that is exactly what I am proposing. And I would like schools across the world to come together on a platform and work towards creating this sense of purpose in children. And I want to add towards the end that in the higher education today, people talk about children being switched off, not really interested. And I was talking to a couple of higher education leaders, and I was telling them that the crisis is the crisis of belongingness that children actually face. When children live in a harsh world of constantly feeling judged for their results and being compared to each other, they don't learn to belong to themselves. They don't develop a sense of voice. They don't develop a sense of agency. They don't develop a sense of I matter, and which is very essential for the sense of purpose that they need to build later on in life. And when I don't matter, I will want to fit into the world any way possible, right? And I will give the exams, and I will try to kind of do whatever is essential. So this is my suggestion. If schools didn't have exams, they should have a sense of purpose.
Thank you so much, Sreeja ma'am. And yes, if they have examinations, let's add a little more of purpose to it. There are multiple pedagogies or multiple ways of evaluating students that are used across countries. Like Finland does continuous evaluation, Japan does something called growth portfolio. People do multiple things across different countries. But when we look at a country like India, the challenge becomes like of a multi-faced dragon. The challenge is when you have to teach a population that's going in billions, and you have to educate all of them, bring them all on a single page. The challenge completely transforms. And that's why for a country like India, examinations become critical. And just to bring some perspective to what I'm trying to say, because I have to be on both sides of the conversation, more than 62% of the children fear examinations more than public speaking. Stage fear is less of a fear when you compare it with the anxiety that exams bring in. I understand the essentiality of it, but what are the other approaches that can be scaled? Because for a lot of developing nations where education is critical, scale is also critical. So we have to really evaluate it from both the perspectives. Let's now hear it from someone else or the next speaker for today, that what is it that they have to add to the topic. Now let's bring in someone from the higher education space. A very warm welcome to Ms. Rema Kumar, the facilitator for Bhoomi College from Bengaluru, Karnataka, India. Rema ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
Hello, everyone. Namaskara. And thank you for this invite to join in this interesting conversation. I'll be speaking from my experience of both Prakriya Green Wisdom School and Bhoomi College, both alternative spaces. So when I heard this theme, my first response was, if there are no exams, what it would be like? And I thought the first response was, it would be learning utopia, because learning would then be joyous without this excessive pressure to perform. Learning would be a journey where there is space to experiment, to explore, to make mistakes, to question, to wonder, to stumble upon fascinating, insights and make meaningful discoveries. And we've seen that even in the Bhoomi College where we run the fellowship, there are no exams. but they work intensely on projects. There is peer learning, there's learning from each other. And that really enables children to widen their perspectives, not children, sorry, adults. In school, we work with children, and we've seen that it helps them widen their perspectives, make deepen their understanding of complex issues. And when there isn't this pressure, which is content driven, to move in a linear way from point A to point B, there is a lot of joyousness, I think, in the process. And what happens to the child, to the person, is that there is space for each person to be seen with their own natural strengths, their natural intelligences, their natural ways of learning, and then they thrive. This whole suicide and non-well-being comes when I'm not seen for who I am. I'm just expected to go through the eye of the same needle, and that really puts a lot of pressure, be it young children or adults alike. And what a lot of times, whether it's our Bhoomi fellows or children who are with us, say that they feel seen here no matter what they bring to the table, and which is so important to come to realize what is the sense of purpose I have, which Sreeja was talking about. It also alters the teacher's role. The teacher then becomes a co traveler, a catalyst, a co learner, not just a content deliverer like a post woman or postman. The metaphor that comes to my mind is that of a gardener. Then you become fully present and you are able to observe what triggers a child or an adult, what sparks their curiosity, and you learn about yourself in the process a lot. And another thing I'd like to add is that when learning happens in a real context, right? And we've tried in school with projects, open projects, real life projects, um, the skills also get built in, actually seamlessly. So, yeah, I think my time is up. So, this is something close to my heart, and I can go on and on. But what we've seen is that it really, like a thousand flowers can bloom. And I think that's the real purpose of education. So, yeah, I'll end. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rema Kumar. And you're very right. You have to basically elevate the teacher and the student both to a level where they become active teachers and active learners. If you're really able to uplift them at that level, that's when the process would really become meaningful. If you really want a garden to bloom, and if the teacher is a gardener, then the seed has to be given the time, the comfort, the gestation, so that we have the kind of sapling and the kind of tree that we expect out of it. But what happens is when competition comes in, when scale comes in, all of this is challenged head on. And that's why conventional education with this reasoning is able to bulldoze all the other opinions. But yes, we all have to understand the practical aspect of it as well, that yes, examinations are not the right way to judge a teenager. Just, there's an online trend called Marks Don't Define Me on Instagram and TikTok. It has more than 150 million views. That's something that goes viral on its own. We understand that the examination does not define the personality. We understand we have to uplift everyone to the level where learning becomes joyous, and we do it for the sake of enjoying it rather than just for the sake of doing it. Some very important points. Thank you so much, Rima ma'am. Let me go to the next speaker now. Now let's try to bring in a perspective of a parent, of how do they see it, because a parent is actually, education, when you look at it from the perspective of a product. I don't want to make it a product in India. It's a non-profit. It's mandatorily supposed to be non-profit. But when you look at education as a product, the consumer is the student, but the customer is the parent. So what's the buyer's perspective on it? Let's bring that to the conversation, because he or she is the one who will really pay money for whatever you're delivering. So a very warm welcome to Mr. Omar Marks, the parent from Sparkling Mindz Global School, Bengaluru, Karnataka. Mr. Omar, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me? Yeah. Uh, Not an expert on the subject. Don't have a statistic to back up anything I'm going to say here. Uh, So everything is down to personal experience, how I have experienced education, and how I'm trying to navigate being a parent of two children, 7 and 12 years of age, both girls in Sparkling Minds. Yeah. Uh, I would go closer to what Sreeja was mentioning earlier, exams, because when I started thinking about the topic, it's exams versus assessments, right? I think she used the word evaluations. I was more towards assessments. There is a time and a place for exams, maybe, but too early, I think assessments is the way I would like. And I'll put some points. Personal journey, I studied, graduated in chemistry. Then I made a living out of advertising. Then I ran a sushi chain. And finally, I am managing a Marcom team at a logistics company, a shipping company. So I don't know how to place education and what an exam to the sharp end of an exam where it could have gotten me, right? So for me, I think we need to go a bit easy on exams too early in life because I think fundamentally it widens the scope, widens the lens through which we view children. And again, it opens it up for both the kids as well as the evaluators and the educators because otherwise, everyone is what do you call that, channeled into thinking of progress only in a certain way. The entire year is devoted towards the end of that year and what's going to happen there. There are so many things that we skip throughout the year which are real wins either for the educator or for the children, right? And for me that is fundamental. I would never want myself or my children to be measured only on the back of six things that happen to them over a 5 day stretch and nothing else counts, right? So for me that's fundamental. I feel and there's so many other things that they need to develop, and again that's how life is. There are so many other like simple things like empathy, emotional intelligence, resilience, so many other things that you will have to learn early on in life. Otherwise, the best education and the best marks are not going to set you up for success in life because you will have failures and tough situations coming up. And if you have not built this up as your core and a value system, then you're going to struggle. So I'd be on for anybody who helps my kids navigate that first, right, and evaluates them and guides them through that. I feel exams have a time and place, but only after a point where somebody is aligned better with their passion and their purpose, right? I find it's a means to an end. It's not the end itself. So if it helps you guide, if it helps you improve proficiency on things you really need to do, then all for it. But too early. I'll wrap up my point also with the thing is with AI coming in and with so many of the functional capabilities already being covered by machines and who knows where it's next. What is going to stand you apart? Right? I have two things in my mind. I mean, it's not an exhaustive list. One is, can I cultivate a fertile imagination in my children? Because eventually that is going to. How can you navigate and come up with things which a machine can't? Right? That is one. And secondly, confidence and presentation. How can you articulate yourself? Because eventually you'll get data from somewhere, but deals, anything that you do in life is communicated in person, and are you able to convince somebody else in a room? That comes down to how you bring yourself. So for me, these two skills, if a school or a system is able to inculcate, that's where I look at this topic. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Umar. And it's important to understand how an individual buyer really looks at education as a product when you want the journey to become more important. A parent who comes with some privilege, a student who comes with some privilege. I'm not trying to demean privilege in any way, but yes, there are some things that, keep you ahead of time. Where you're born, the kind of background that you bring, that changes the dynamic completely. And some of the points that you made are superbly important, that why are we really judging an individual on events that happen only 5 days for out of the 365 days in the whole year? And the challenge is we then give them a tag, we give them a sticker that, okay, you are this kind of an individual. And why do we block the personality at that point? And just to bring a counter opinion to this, it has been proved again and again in human civilization, in human history, that markets really decide anything and everything at the end of the day. The biggest employers all over the world look at only two qualities in their employees: stamina and discipline. And both of these are absolutely inorganic. Humans don't typically want to go in this direction. And that is why, when we look at all the scaled businesses, all the scaled models of even education, employment, they all heavily rely on the monotonity of it. Can you handle the discipline and have the stamina to deal with it so that more money can be churned out of it? What we are doing here is, rather in some or the other way, challenging evolution. And whether it's, we understand the inorganic nature of examination, but the organic way it makes money for the people involved. This is the fight that we are trying to see. But let's bring in more perspectives to this. Thank you so much, Mr. Roma, for bringing that personal experience to the complete discussion. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Ms. Seema Pawar, who's a vice principal in a Delhi government school and the Directorate of Education for New Delhi, Delhi. Seema ji, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
Yeah, hello everyone. It's a very beautiful discussion going on here. And when I was listening to Omar's perspective, like when he said that 5 days of our performance should not judge our learning, so it resonates very well with me also. Like in a traditional system, we have been judging students' performance on the basis of marks, on the basis of memory, on the basis of how much retention they have of the facts. And everyone is given one simple, uniform examination, and they are judged on that matter only. But when we see children, so they have, all of them have different learning abilities, different learning styles. And when it comes to expressing their learning, then some children are very good in expressing through dialogues, others are through movement, some are through singing, through dancing, even some are able to express themselves through arts and a lot of other varieties. But in school education system, we only focus on that 3 hours assessment system. So what we need to do is we need to make assessment as learning, as a part of learning itself. We judge students based on the criteria fixed by someone else, not the child himself or herself. And even parents are also thinking on same lines that when my child is able to speak very well, then why they need to write those 3 hours lengthy paper where they feel anxious. Some children start neglecting studies or other things. So assessment should be a part of learning itself, and it should be a kind of recreational, joyful activity where the child want to show herself or himself that yes, I am able to do this thing, and now I'm ready to take on the next higher level of things. And when we see children, like in 8th class, we don't have every child on the same level. But when it comes to traditional form of assessment, we give one single paper to all the children, irrespective of their level of assessment or their level of learning. Sorry. And in our system, we think that mistakes are to be avoided. Mistakes are non-negotiable. But when we make mistakes as a part of learning, we accept that thing, then children can express themselves more freely and in a more what I can say, in a more natural form. So instead of contextualizing everything in just those marks and celebrating the toppers, we should celebrate the joy of learning itself. And every child is at a different step of their journey. So we can until we democratize this system of evaluation, we cannot democratize schools as such. So otherwise, we will be reinventing the wheel again and again. So the main thing is like teachers are seen as judge. Like they will be judging students on the basis of marks or on the basis of their performance. So teachers can work as facilitators, and they can be as a true guide, and they can provide hand holding to those students who are in need. But we should not push every child to sit in the to fit in the same system, because when it comes to quality improvement, or when it comes to assessment, or when it comes to what I should say, uh, the evaluation of a school as a whole, then we see how many toppers are we generating.
Thank you so much, Seema ma'am. The first 3 minutes were over, but we'll try to come back to you in the open floor. And yes, when assessment becomes a part of learning, we all understand that there are challenges that come at play when we try to do this. A lot of countries like Finland, they've created a system where every week they'll be testing out what the student has done within that week itself. Even in a lot of ISDs across the US, the same system is followed, where during the first 4 or 5 days, whatever you studied, on the fifth day there is an examination just evaluating that week, and putting in your credits together to finally create your score for at the end of the year. But since you brought in an analogy that it'll be like reinventing a wheel, I think a school is supposed to be that workshop where that wheel is reinvented every single day. Only then we'll be able to celebrate mistakes. When we let children do the same mistakes, when we know that they're going through the wrong path, and we let them go through to that path while being there to take care that they don't fall in a trap or something. But we will have to create a space where each one can reinvent the wheel, because when you give them a prejudice, they keep reinventing the prejudice. What do you really want to bring into the brain of a child that you want to finally reshape the society? You want to give him premonitions, presumptions, or you just want to give them an open canvas that you can draw the same old paintings, but we know you'll use a different color. There would be a new shade that might be born out of it, whatever you're doing. The space to do more mistakes, and even to do the same mistakes that your earlier generations have done, believing on their innate genetic knowledge that they've already brought in on the table. I think it should be a workshop of reinventing the wheel. Just some perspective, not on any side. So let me invite the next speaker and add in more content to the conversation. A very warm welcome to Dr. Shivananda CS, who's the head of school for Bangalore International School from Bengaluru, Karnataka, India. Shivananji, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Daksh. Really thankful for inviting me. This is my first session at, I don't know what is this session, the organizers and all, but I'm very happy the way the topic is taken off. I know exams are not meeting all our needs, but if you look at the history, exams have served our generations. We are what we are because of those exams. And as you rightly said, markets define the next course of action. Now markets have already changing the trend. They are telling exams are not serving us, please change. And it's a just natural course of evolution, and it will change. And I've already seen change happening. More and more schools are adopting real life projects, solving real life problems, and companies and the world is accepting it. I recall a program I attended recently. One of my students invited me to attend her Arangetram, is a Bharatanatyam program where they dance to showcase whatever they have learned. This girl is just 14 years old. She danced 3 hours at a stretch with little gaps where the compare comes and talks what she is dancing, what is the raga, who is the guru, all those stuff. But she danced continuously. And that Arangetram happens to be a testimony of her learning and demonstration of her learning. I was just thinking, imagine if she was asked to take Bharatanatyam exam to demonstrate her knowledge instead of Arangetram, how that would look. That would be a massive failure. At the same time, the same girl has taken many exams to sharpen her knowledge of Bharatanatyam. It clearly says exam has a purpose to serve, but it doesn't serve everything. And there are lots of research which proves that formative assessment, I liked the comment made by Mr. Omar, assessments do help. It will tell you what has been your learning, where are the gaps, and what to focus on. But if exams are judgmental, like the summative assessments, the year-end exams, they are made for different purpose. During Industrial Revolution, they are made to serve the scale of operations. They are serving even now to serve, prepare employees for mechanical type of work. But the work which involves creativity, works which are very, what should I say, unique in their nature, exams cannot serve them. And we are now entering gig economy, wherein everybody is a freelancer, everybody have their own expertise, and exams cannot serve us anymore. And more boards are realizing it, and I'm sure this change is going to happen in the next decade, maybe earlier than a decade. The problem is the ones who justify exams and the ones who say exams no more serve us, there will be a clash. And the worst thing is, children will be caught in between. So we have to prepare our children to overcome this clash. We have to tell them this is very normal, this is point of evolution. You have to prepare for exam. At the same time, you have to prepare for world. I was going through a book by Dylan William. He clearly says, gone are the days when you go with a marks card and you'll get placement. Now, you need to have a marks card to an extent. You should have skills. You should know how to communicate. You should know how to empathize. You should know where is the problem, and you should define the problem, and you should solve those problems. So you have to do everything. It's whatever our previous generation did, you should complete that. In addition, you should also prepare for the next generation challenges. So this is how it would be. And I would love to hear from everybody.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shivananda. And yes, exams have served a definitive purpose. And that is what has given them, these hundreds of years of life that they have been there on this earth. For this very simple reason, they aligned with industrialization, they aligned with scale. They were able to quickly identify talent and bring them to the industry and make the industry function. It was the need at that point of time. And yes, the market forces are, moving towards more real life skills for a very simple reason. Even if you are an academic expert, you are, doing amazingly well in academics. When you finally go to the job market, somebody is looking for a problem solver. They might not be interested in you solving a problem on a paper and a pen. They would want you to solve a real life challenge. And the problem is the world now faces complex challenges. There are no simple problems in the real world to solve. All of them have got superbly complicated with time. And now we need people who solve problems for the purpose of enjoyment rather than for the purpose of solving them. Because if you're not enjoying the process, you might not be able to give the world a breakthrough. You might just be able to give them a transitionary kind of a solution, but not a breakthrough. And what Dr. Shivananda said is very right. The current generation has to face the maximum heat, because transition is the most discomfortable or uncomfortable stage of any time for a human life. And when you're a teen, already an adolescent, there's a lot of changes happening. And when this comes at play, your decision making goes haywire. We understand that privilege brings you the ability to, maneuver it. But for a lot of children around you, that's not the case. So this is the time when you have to create peer support. As a teenager, if you're somewhere in the world and you are looking at this from a privilege standpoint, find out a way where you can enable or help more people, because not everyone can have that comfort of having a perspective or an opinion. Thank you so much, sir. Let me invite the next speaker for today. Let's bring another parent's perspective to it. A very warm welcome to Ms. Thirumagal M., the parent from Sparkling Mindz Global School, Bangalore, Karnataka. Ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So before I talk about how school would look like without exams, I want to share my reflection on the impact the current exam-based education has created on me as a student or as a parent or in the society which I live in. The first impact is fear of failure. So I don't have the statistics, on the death rates and all, but even if it is one life, one young budding life, it's a life like who lost their life just because of this unempathetic education and examination system. So, and not only, children are taking their lives, and it is also the current system is taking toll on their mental and emotional well-being as well. Right, somewhere knowingly or unknowingly, we make them feel that marks define their value or identity. Their identity is being questioned. What's your 12th mark? What's your 10th mark? So, and when there are two siblings, right, if one is academically good, the other one, imagine about the trauma that person is going through throughout their lifetime. So, it's, somewhere, it's creating an imbalance. The current education system is creating an imbalance in the society. Also, children and parents are, pushed towards following unethical practices, converting their societal status from creamy to non-creamy just to avail the reservation benefits. And, all these are being done just with one instruction, somehow pass the exam and get some degree. So, not only that, it is not getting ended with this, 10th, 12th college marks and education. The mindset which this system is, shaping throughout this process, the output-oriented non-learner mindset, right, is creating such an imbalance. Just give one example. We all know about Right to Education Act, right? So one of the famous reputed school in Bangalore 4 years back, a group of parents, reached out to the school management expressing the discomfort of their children sitting next to the children admitted through RTE, Right to Education. And 30 years back, my father is a school government teacher. Okay, 30 years back, a similar incident happened for a lower caste group of children where a part of their, hair would get shaved to identify them. So in this 30 years, what this education system has given to my society, such a vertical relationship. So, I definitely want, until this education system is fixed, then only examination evaluation comes in, right? So it's built on that. So, until, empathy and inclusiveness education system is not in place. And I think exam is, as a parent, I'm not ready to, so that's the reason I chose an alternative education system for my children. So being said, all these impacts which created in me, now just imagine a school without exam. That will be the safest place for, all the children on earth to learn and grow without fear of failure. There they value, empathy over comparison, understanding over memorization, growth over grades, right? And the society will hold more horizontal relationship, which is very much needed in current situation. Let AI come, anything come. So society has to move on, right? For that, empathy and kindness has to be there. So that's my take on this. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Miss Thirumagal. You're very right with whatever you quoted. Now being economic disparity that comes from caste disparity, we have all celebrated disparity. And, I must not mention this, but it's worth mentioning at this point. Karl Marx made a very simple statement that holds true till date. And a lot of thinkers would have said something similar, but his statement is a little interesting. Religion is the opium of the masses. For a very simple reason. Every adult on this call can understand this. The kind of, belief-based satisfaction we all draw out from our beliefs is something that draws us towards it. One of the interviews of B.R. Ambedkar, where he clearly mentions the democracy in India would only exist for the namesake of it, because the behavior is superbly ancient and this idea of democracy is superbly new. And why does that happen? Because we celebrate disparity. We are, conscious towards this. We want to look at the world in a structure as humans, that, okay, this is where I get placed. I want to place myself above everyone else around me. I'm not happy being like everyone else. I think a good point of reference for all the teens who are there on this call, if you can get a hold of, there's a book called Animal Farm by George Orwell. If you can get a hold of that book, please, go to a bookstore and read it. It's a superbly interesting read. As a teenager, you like it as a story, but as an adult, it will haunt you as a story. So it's a transformative piece of literature. If you have the time, do have a look at it. Thank you so much, Ms. Thirumagal, for bringing this to the conversation. Now it's time to listen to the teenagers the children. What do they think about this? Are they loving the examinations? Are they loving no examinations? Why do they love it or why do they hate it? What's their reasoning behind it? A very warm welcome to Mr. Mathew Jose Tony, who's a grade 8 student from Sparkling Mindz Global School, Bangalore, Karnataka, India. Mathew, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Hello, I am Mathew Tony, grade 8, Sparkling Mindz Global School. I am against the idea of exams. Exams have been used to test knowledge for centuries, but fail to do what they're designed for, quantifying aptitude. Exams often focus on memorization instead of understanding. Sometimes your success in an exam is determined by your ability to recite the social studies textbook instead of your understanding of historical events and their implications. Don't get me wrong, the Indian education system clearly has its benefits. If one were to purely judge it based on the numbers Indians who are now leading global companies such as Microsoft, Google, and Apple. But children and families pay a huge price in this desire to prove their worth through excelling in exams. During high school years, children quit extracurricular activities and sports, with the entire family single mindedly focused on scoring the highest possible marks in exams. Mental health and depression amongst teenagers is a huge problem, with the stress and fear associated with not meeting expectations, oftentimes leading to depression and sometimes even suicide. Does excelling in one singular exam assure the students of lifelong success, of joy, contentment, and peace? It is the unfortunate reality of this world that marks do matter, as there has to be a mechanism to choose people for colleges with limited seats. But children can learn and be taught how to work hard and produce original work of a high standard without going through the rigors of a highly competitive examination process, which often robs them of their childhood and the joy of learning. Imagine a different world, one with a changed education system. Imagine a school without exams, where a child has the freedom to be proud of their own individual talents and skills without fear of being judged on one metric alone, their marks. A school where a child can view their classmates as friends and collaborators in their own individual learning journey, rather than competitors who need to be beaten by hook or by crook. An environment where a child will thrive based on their own inherent skills, interests, and talents, rather than their ability to fit into a mold that's drawn up for them purely upon one skill alone, academics. Assessments are important, but a whole year's learning shouldn't be judged in a 3 hour long examination. The education can be different, it can be better, and it's time to work together to change the system for a better future for all. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Mathew, for bringing this perspective to the table. We all want to be, celebrated as individuals. Dr. Shivananda mentioned an experience that he had when he went to an Arangetram to look at a performance of Bharatnatyam. If you look at that core text, that's, it's said it's compiled and written by by Bharat Rishi, Natya Shastra. If you look at that, just look at the way that document or that piece of literature has been written. It's actually reinvention of the wheel happening on every single page. They're stumbling upon discoveries and documenting that journey of stumbling You have to understand that journey of stumbling is far more important than what you achieve from it. Because that journey really transforms a passive learner to an active learner. So we are now moving as an education society from results towards journeys. This normally comes when a little bit of a comfort, or rather economic comfort, comes into society. And this is the point when the society chooses. Why does a society like Europe, who's economically amazingly comfortable, have the highest number of adult depression suicides? This is where your culture, your behavior, your literature, your music, your art, all of this come at play. So when we talk of an ecosystem without examinations, without fear, what are we really replacing it with? Is the choice that we have to make. Thank you so much, Mathew, for bringing this all to the conversation. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Ms. Shubhra Vinay Narsimham, who's a grade 8 student from Sparkling Mindz Global School, Karnataka. Shubhra, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Hello, my name is Shubhra and I'm from Sparkling Mindz Global School. I believe that a school without exams would definitely be better than the way schools are today. Exams in traditional schools are only for the marks, only for the teacher to know. There's no process in these exams, there's no process of learning from your mistakes, there's no process of self improvement. It is only valued because of the schools. Many children get exam pressure to prove to their friends or family that they're academically good. Because of this, they mug up everything and attempt the exam. Um, not knowing how they learned or the process they used. So it can be reapplied anywhere else. None of this could ever help you become a better version of yourself. This could never really help you internalize the process and use it somewhere else. Because the 100% you get on an exam paper doesn't help you deal with relationships or collaborations or other conflicts which are in the world. So, a space for a child to grow, to connect with the learning, because each of us, all the teenagers, take our own time to grow. And having that space to grow really can help us improve like never before. And all of these in mind, I don't think exams would work. So I had an so I want to present an idea of assessments in front of you. Assessment is a question paper but with a process. An assessment is it's not just an exam with a fancier name. There is more to it, and this is something which we follow in our school. Before assessments, we have a game-based learning process so that we can internalize whatever topics we're learning. After that, we write our assessment paper, and once we get it back corrected, we start our reflection process. In this process, we write did we know what the question meant? Did we not know? Did we get it right? Did we get it wrong? And for each scenario, we write, what can we do better? What can I continue practicing? And this really helps us on our reflecting skill. And this reflecting is a skill which we need to learn to face the world, because this will help us get back from the conflicts that hit us on the face. With this strategy, I think we can find joy in our learning, our growth, and our assessments won't be a chore or a task meant to be done. It will be a learning opportunity and action with joy and purpose. And to me, that's what matters the most. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shubhra. And you reinforce the point that yes, the journey would typically be far more important than what you achieve at the end. What we are really talking about, makes me think of a very simple, analogy that we can bring to the table. What we are trying to do is to recreate history. We are trying to go back in time when there was no civilization. Why were humans inventing agriculture equipments? Why were humans inventing weapons at that point? Just out of curiosity or need. They were doing it because they wanted to do it. They did not know where the journey really is taking them. They didn't want to get into a job at Microsoft. So the problem is our fixation of our target, that, okay, this is what I am going to realize after my journey. Do we really want to be fixed as a society or be obsessed around, this is what I want to achieve out of this whole journey that I'm going through? Or we want to enjoy the journey? That's the decision. Whether you have an examination in the school or you don't have an examination in the school, that doesn't make a difference. If you have that, if you're not obsessed with what you're going to achieve, you'll be able to enjoy it even with all the stress, even with all the anxiety and everything being there. So as a teenager, you have to transform yourself as individuals rather than just expecting the system to change for you and make it a little more comfortable for you. Don't expect comfort, enhance curiosity. We have listened to all the speakers for today. If you missed out onto anything, if you want to add something to the conversation, we have the last 2 to 3 minutes of this session. You can just raise your hand so that I can invite you for your quick statements before this session comes to an end. If you're satisfied, comfortable on the call, we'll move towards the closing of the session. If anyone has any thought to add, just raise your hand and then I'll invite you next. Okay, I think everyone, okay, Sreeja, ma'am wants to add something. Ma'am, over to you for the next 1 minute for your quick statement before we move towards the closing.
So I heard this interesting story about how entrance examination started. And this is in Britain. There was a time when there was no entrance examinations and the headmasters used to write reference letters. And it used to be called the old boys club. The boys that they knew were good would just get recommended to the university, no entrance. And the women marched to overcome this phenomena, saying that we deserve an equal chance. And the entrance examination then created this possibility for them to actually enter the university without a recommendation because they didn't have access to it. So something that created equity about 100 years ago needs to be re-challenged now because it's actually creating faceless, humanless interactions and is at the cost of mental health, and it's causing extreme anxiety and stress, right? So it probably is time to reinvent the wheel. So it's time for us to question it the right way.
Thank you so much, Sreeja, ma'am. So in this whole conversation that we were there for the last 30, 40, 50 minutes, that do we really need an examination in the school? We can all bring in a perspective that we think is the ideal utopian situation. But can that utopia make the world function right now? Is the real question. If it cannot, then when can our alternatives really create an alternative functioning world? There has to be a timeline to it. How do you put a timeline to it? What is it that you bring into the whole calculation so that this structure can be challenged? The problem is when you challenge a structure, it's exhilarating. It gives you adrenal rush. But the problem is this rush does not give you the next structure. And humans cannot stay without structure. What are we looking at? What is it that we are finding out? What is it that we are going towards? Are we obsessed with the target? Are we obsessed with the journey? Are we enjoying the journey? So for concluding this call, let me bring a simple Hindi quotation that one of the writers would have written. That there are two words that come in this quotation. One is khush. Khush means happy. And the other word is razi, which means satisfied. And I think the best way to look at this question and this journey is Raah mein khush, manzil pe razi. Your destination can only make you satisfied and never superbly happy. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this conversation. This was the 269th episode of the Blub World Web Talks. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, and if you want to attend the future sessions, open your audio, say a big yes. And thank you so much, everyone. Have an amazing evening ahead. Bye-bye.